Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. Please like and subscribe. Consider becoming a member to the channel. It's only $2.99 a month. If you enjoy the content, becoming a member to the channel really helps. Terence Crawford did it, man. Pound for pound king, 3-time undisputed, 3 different weight divisions. Absolutely amazing. But we need to really understand Terence Bud Crawford's win. He didn't just add another victory to his resume. What Terence Crawford ended up doing was reshaping the entire conversation about pound for pound greatness. We know what Canelo was. We know what Canelo did over the last decade. But when it comes to Terence Crawford, we're talking about a fighter who already became the first male to become undisputed champion in 2 weight classes in the 4-belt era. And now with this win, knocking on the door of being recognized not just as the best fighter today, but arguably one of the greatest fighters ever. And that's not a reach. That's not what we're talking about. It's opinion, but it's facts. What Terence Crawford did is almost beyond comprehension. And not just the fact that he became 3-time undisputed in 3 different weight divisions, it is who he did it against and the way he went about it. So this is legacy work. And when you put his accomplishments side by side with all-time greats, you see just how seismic this victory really is. Now, I'm not saying he would beat Mayweather or he would beat Sugar Ray Robinson or he would beat anybody else. I'm not saying that. But when we're talking about accomplishments, there needs to be a conversation. Now, to understand, Crawford's impact, you got to go back to the history books, you know what I'm saying? Pound for pound wasn't always about numbers of belts. It was about who could carry their skills across divisions. Back in the day, you take it all the way back to Sugar Ray Robinson, he did it. You know what I'm saying? In his era, Robinson, almost every fighter you talk to, when they ask him not who is their favorite fighter, but who they think was the best fighter to ever put on a pair of gloves, and almost 99.99999% of them will say Sugar Ray Robinson. He was the prototype, man. He had speed, power, defense, dominance across multiple weight classes. When you look at Crawford kind of mirrors that in the modern game. You know what I'm saying? Like Robinson, Crawford doesn't just win. He dismantles his opponents. Breaks down opponents, mentally. Even this weekend with Canelo, you saw him. Canelo broke down mentally. Physically, you saw Canelo breaking down physically. And he does that until there's no question who the superior fighter is. And you can see in the opponents that Crawford faces, at some point in the fight, they accept it. It's like they have to accept the fact that they're not going to win. And if they try to fight hard, they run the risk of getting knocked out. So Crawford's adaptability, fight to fight, round to round, puts him in the same lineage as Robinson's genius. And that's a huge compliment. You always say, boxing is a thinking man's game. You don't just get in there and just swinging wildly and being reckless. You got to sit back, think, process information, react quickly, react instinctively. That's what Terence Crawford has become, people. Pound for pound king. Redefining greatness. But of course, like I said, there's that inevitable comparison to Floyd Mayweather Jr. Now, I'm going to just tell you, I don't think nobody messed with Floyd Mayweather Jr. I saw all of Floyd's fights. I've seen all of Crawford's fights. Crawford is the truth. But Mayweather had something different. And if you're young, if you're like in your 30s, probably late 30s, early 40s, we probably ain't gonna agree on this shit. But I just think Floyd Mayweather, he's the gold standard of the modern era. Floyd was a 50-0 defensive wizard, a man who neutralized every single style and made every single champion look ordinary. But there's a little bit of a difference now. Floyd never became undisputed in a weight class, let alone two. And that's where some people try to poke me in the eyeball and say, well, Floyd didn't do this. But I'll say this, if Floyd wanted to, he could have. Everybody knows that. Crawford will tell you that. But he didn't. So when it comes to accomplishments and achievements, you got to look at Terence Crawford, Crawford's achievements there puts him in the lane of his own. Did Floyd beat legends? Yeah, of course. But Crawford is chasing undisputed crowns across multiple divisions in an era with politics, sanctioning bodies, promotional roadblocks, not being the A side. And that matters, because I'm not going to say Floyd had it easier than... No, I will say that Floyd had it easier than Crawford. Remember, just because I'm saying Floyd had it easier than Crawford don't mean Floyd had it easy. And when I say easier, I'm not talking about opponents. I still think Floyd fought... You got to look at how many champions he fought, you know what I'm saying? Floyd probably fought more difficult fights, but made them look easy. But again, it's not Crawford's fault that he didn't get the opportunities. And that's why I said he had a more difficult path, because he just couldn't get... He wanted to fight like Floyd Mayweather. He wanted early in his career to fight champion after champion after champion. They just wouldn't fight him. So he never got that breakout fight to take on the face of boxing like Floyd did against De La Hoya much earlier in his career than Crawford just did recently against Canelo. You know what I'm saying? This thing about Floyd Mayweather, he beat Canelo. Was Canelo inexperienced? I don't know if I want to say that, because you can say Floyd was old. But all that matters for this conversation is that we know Floyd beat Canelo and Crawford beat Canelo. For the people who want to sit there and harp on the fact that Crawford stood in the pocket more, touched up Canelo what seems to be a little bit more, and you can use that as a comparison to how Floyd fought him to determine that you feel Crawford would have beat Floyd Mayweather. You can't do that. Anyone who follows boxing knows you can't look at how Crawford performed against a much older Canelo with a lot more wear and tear than when Floyd fought him. But there's a lot more experience with this Canelo too. So, that debate could go on for days, weeks, and it's probably going to go on for years as far as whether Terence Crawford and Mayweather, if they fought prime for prime, who would have won. But I just think when you look at what Terence Crawford accomplished in this climate, I think arguably that carries more weight than Floyd's, I think, carefully managed but brilliant career path, because Floyd was able to do a lot of things that Bud he wasn't able to do. Even now, he may not even be able to do the shit Floyd was able to do as far as crafting his career, his career path. Canelo was doing it. I still don't know if Bud can do that. Mayweather had a lot of people wanted to see him pay-per-view and everything else. I still don't know if Bud has become a pay-per-view star. I don't know if he'll ever become a pay-per-view star. But if he can have a pay-per-view breakout, which they're trying to get away from that, the time for him to do it will be right now. And that's why I say when you talk about 3-weight undisputed champions, that list is short. You know what I'm saying? It's actually non-existent on the men's side in the 4-belt era. You know what I'm saying? No one's done it. People talk about what Usyk could do it. How's Usyk going to do it? Go down to bridgerweight? There ain't no goddamn undisputed at bridgerweight. Oh yeah, well he fought at cruiserweight. Yeah, after cruiserweight comes what? Heavyweight. 2-time undisputed. What Usyk gonna go down to light heavy? Bridgerweight? It's not Usyk's fault. I do believe Usyk, if he was able to, I do think Usyk can become a 3-time undisputed in a third weight division. I just don't see Usyk melting down to no 175, and with the Bridgerweight, all the sanctioning bodies aren't on board. So you just got to sit back and allow Crawford to own that distinction. He's probably going to own it for a long time. He's just the only male fighter to become undisputed 3 times. You know what I'm saying? Now you really talk about this third one. That's a big deal. It's something in boxing history that's never been seen. Just think about that. You could bring up Roberto Duran, Henry Armstrong, Manny Pacquiao, and how they did the business across divisions. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes more divisions than Crawford has now, but none of them had the unified 4 belts in the fractured modern era. So Crawford, his lane is very unique, and it redefines what it means to be the man across multiple weight classes. Huge, huge accomplishment. So what does this win do for Crawford? Well, I'm going to tell you. It pushes the conversation. It's like I'm out here doing these videos pushing the conversation, but it really pushes the conversation towards the possibility of a 4th weight class if Crawford really wants to extend his career and maybe go try to do the business at 160. You know what I'm saying? Could Crawford move maybe down to 160 and do it again? Could he move up to 175 and do it again? That shit would be the unthinkable. But we're talking about a fighter who started, at 135 at lightweight, did the business at 140, 147, got a title at 154. But if he were to claim undisputed status at, let's say, go down to 160 and do it, and be four-time, that'll put him in a category no fighter probably will ever touch. 4-division undisputed in the 4-belt era will be beyond legendary. That shit would be mythical. And again, it would just add to the immortality status that Crawford achieved this past weekend. You gotta just look at Crawford's skills, his IQ, discipline. All those things make him capable of carrying his greatness either down a weight division or up in weight just like the legends did. But how much further up in weight can Crawford go? Because if he's going to become undisputed, he can just go and pick and choose who he fights. At 175 would be interesting if he could get an opportunity to fight Bivol for all the belts. But again, we're talking about dominance, right? We start talking about Bivol and those guys. I know some people feel Crawford would beat Bivol. I'm not one who feels that way. But what I will say is, we're talking about dominance, right? Crawford hasn't just been winning, okay? He's been winning in devastating fashion. So I could understand someone saying, maybe Crawford goes up and he does somehow do the business against Bivol. Because Bivol has lost. Crawford has not. Crawford is perfect. He is unpredictable. Bivol is a bit predictable. You kind of know how to beat him. But you got to look at who beat Bivol. An absolute monster. But this thing about winning in devastating fashion, it's not always about knockouts. So you look at Crawford. 147 just knocked everybody out. But I don't know. What do you like knockouts more, to see somebody, man, in a one-side beatdown in complete control? And I think with Crawford, you get knockouts, you get one-sided beatdowns, and you get complete control. And these are the hallmarks of an all-time great. Not many fighters can do that. You got fighters like Ray Leonard, Roy Jones Jr., even Mayweather. They had close fights sprinkled into their careers. Crawford's record really doesn't. he doesn't really have those. He always was able to adapt and make adjustments, then start to dominate, and then he'll finish the fighter. And that's a different kind of greatness. So it's not just about surviving against legends; it's about erasing any doubt. And I think no matter what kind of fight Crawford gets in, he's the kind of guy who's gonna get in there and do the business, and either knock out his opponent or his opponent's gonna do it like Canelo, and not be so willing to engage in a mashup crash up, because Crawford ain't gonna do that shit early in the fight. Crawford does it after he figures out your rhythm, he establishes his distance, and he knows that he can come down off his toes and kind of start walking you down. It's amazing how Crawford is able to make you miss by a fraction of an inch. He even did the shit with Canelo, something that people thought he just couldn't do. But I think when you look at what he did, we can just have that discussion about another aspect that makes the win against Canelo historic, is how it kind of redefines what pound for pound means today. For years, everybody, for the most part, Floyd, Gervonta, Lomachenko, Usyk. I think Devin was on that list. Canelo was on that list, but the pound for pound lists were dominated by fighters like Canelo. You know what I'm saying? And that's just being honest, for a long, long time. But you gotta look at what Canelo did. He climbed divisions, became undisputed at 168. But Crawford's done it in a way that leaves no controversy, no asterisks. Every time he had a challenge, he stepped up, unified, left no question marks. When he fought Canelo, in case y'all forgot, there was no rehydration clause. You know what I'm saying? There was no catch weight. He wanted him at 100%, no excuses. So, no question mark about that win with Canelo. Crawford's resume isn't padded. It's stacked with definitive victories. And now, this one here gives him the argument to not just be pound for pound number one today, but one of the greatest pound for pound fighters of all time. So put some respect on his name. And this is where we can bring it full circle back to history, you know what I'm saying? Sugar Ray Robinson, he set the bar. He set the bar high. If you guys haven't watched some Sugar Ray Robinson fights, you need to go watch it. You're going to see something like a freak show, man. That guy was so fast and powerful. Absolutely amazing. And look at the gloves they're wearing. You might as well be getting hit with a fist. That shit is crazy that those guys should go out there and fight so many rounds with them little mittens on their hands. But Sugar Ray Robinson, he set the bar high. Mayweather carried the torch into the modern era. And now Crawford's win elevates him into that same breath. But the difference is, Crawford is rewriting their criteria. Remember with Floyd, everybody wanted to be undefeated. Now Crawford got people wanting to be undisputed in multiple weight divisions. So he was able to take things a step further when you look at it from that perspective. And you know what? Yeah, Crawford he's undefeated like Floyd. But he's not as widely mythologized, you know what I'm saying, as Sugar Ray Robinson. But his legacy is rooted in something both of those guys didn't achieve. Total undisputed domination across multiple weight divisions. That changes the way future generations are going to define greatness. Everybody has to become undisputed now in a couple weight divisions. You can't just come and win a title and think you're great. Nah, you got to look at what Crawford's doing. You got to become undisputed across multiple weight divisions. But with Crawford, he didn't have to fight 4 different people to become undisputed at 168. With Earl Spence, he had 1 belt. Earl Spence had 3. So, you figure 2 fights to become undisputed. The 1 fight to pick up his belt, then the 1 fight with Earl Spence to get the other 3. So, that matters too, you know what I'm saying? I just think when we ask how Crawford's win, redefines pound for pound greatness? The answer is simple, man. He's doing things that nobody else in boxing history has done. Carving out a new standard, not just following in the footsteps of legends, but building a road that others will have to chase. So whether or not he becomes a 4-division undisputed champion, whether or not he ends up undefeated, going into retirement, what's already locked in place is his history as the man who redefined what pound for pound supremacy really looks like. Let's see what he does next. One thing for sure, Turk El Sheikh wants him to keep fighting. Turk is in the house every day is Thanksgiving. Better believe Crawford gonna make a 9-figure payday. To me, he's earned it. I see some people still don't think he's earned it, but get that man his $100 million. Rematch with Canelo, take care of him. He more than most of these other fighters, he deserves it. All he did was just keep doing the business. They treated him bad. They talked about his wife, his children. The people are sick, and not just fans, even other boxers, man. Just really had horrible things to say about him. Look at him now. Anyway, y'all keep cool. Shout out to the veterans all 7 continents. In the break.